With that, I'd like to introduce Aurelien Palasse. Did I get it right? Awesome. Really cool name, by the way.
Yeah.
From Ubisoft. And Ubisoft is one of the more progressive big publishers that are out there right now. I mean, I feel like you guys are really doing some awesome stuff and always are on the cutting edge of what's happening in the industry, even though you're big in the relatively slow-moving AAA space. And he's going to be talking about the China mobile market, which, you know, with 1 billion people, looks pretty attractive to a lot of different people. So,
Yeah, 1.5 billion actually.
wow. So take it away. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. My name is Aurelien. So I work at Ubisoft. I'm based in Shanghai since 3 years, and I'm business marketing director there. So I'm focused on the mobile activity of the group. Maybe I think you know about Ubisoft, but maybe a bit less on mobile. We are not kind of leader on this segment of the market. But since almost a year now, we decided to invest more by having dedicated team, development team, and normally next year you will learn more about Ubisoft on mobile. So today I just want to talk about and share a bit with you based on experience, 1 year of experience in China for typical Western game developers and publishers and how we make it happen in China. We start our first game in September 2011, was Michael Jackson The Experience, that we localized in Chinese, but not totally. We just actually changed the title and put the Chinese languages, but it was a first time for us. After, of course, we released Rayman Juggle Run recently, and a couple of other minor titles. So it's what I want to share with you today, how we are making it, and try to show you the best approach, I think, for developers as us. Just before going through, if you have any questions, feel free to pop up. We don't need to wait David Q&A at the last. Just ask me, interrupt me, and I will try to answer you on the fly. So just summary of what we're going to talk about. First, some figures about the Chinese market. It's based from different sources that I will share with you. Then we will go through the hardware specificities, because if you are developers, it's important to know that for the QC and everything. There's some difference with Western market on that part. The distribution and business model, so how the distribution is organized in China and what's the business model rules over there, because that was a big change for us at Ubisoft. The localization recall, so what you should try to do. I will not go that much in details because actually we didn't do it really well today. Some other guys doing better than us. I know that tomorrow you have a speech with someone from PopCap. We'll explain that about PVZ. I think it will be the best place for you to go into details, but I will try to high level that. And some licensing options as well. It could be for you if you want to enter in Chinese market. Sometime you may work with a partner, and after if you have any question. So let's talk about figures. So that's come from App Annie, so you probably know. So actually the iOS freemium revenues have grown up nearly by 25% last week. It's very, very booming markets. Everyone knows that, but in China it's even more than everywhere. Tim Cook himself say China will become a first market by 2015. So the iOS, even the iOS market, because everyone say Android is the first market. Yes, that's true, but even on iOS, which for developers is often the first platform you develop a title for, will be also very, very big and important in China. If you have a look to the flurry data, the Chinese passes the US as the world's biggest smart devices market, just in February recently. So we are talking about the first mobile game market in the world. And there's still many, many publishers that doesn't enter in this market, that doesn't invest resources and time on this market. So we really wanted to show you this curve because it's very a market you can miss afford. Just to make big numbers from China Mobile Game Industry Report, released a couple of months ago. It's going to be 635 million euro in 2012. Of course, we can play with numbers, but it's going to be 1 billion euro in 2015, so it's a progression up to 15%. You will have 246. Actually, now you have almost 250 million active users on smartphone in China. It's very huge, and there will be almost 350 million within 2 years. So it's very a huge market, a huge potential, but you will see it's not that easy to enter in. So in terms of hardware, I will go and leverage on a report from Humang. Don't know if you heard about that. It's such kind of the local flurry we have there in China. It's also one of specificities. Everything have its own local leader. It's an analysis based on 100,000 Android and iOS apps, so it's quite precise, and I think these numbers are a good benchmark for you guys. This data come from the 2012 period, 1 year of analysis. So basically, in terms of activations, you can see in 2012 the split between iOS and Android in China. So iOS is quite a big market and very important, but I do believe the split is around 70-30 today, because Android is going quite well as well. The new iPhone boosted up the iOS curve in 2012, but the repartition is 70-30. If you have a look to the iOS device data, more precisely, you will have this kind of split. So it's I'm not quite sure about Western market now. I lost the figure, but it's probably the same. You have a 80-20 split between iPhone and iPad. In terms of distribution, if we go to the iPad versus and the tablet markets, of course, it's like that, I'm sure, from Western market. 80% of devices, tablets are iPad, and you have around 20% of tablets which are Android devices. So in terms of brand distributions, just to give you an idea, I will not go through details, but what is interesting here is you can see in China there's many local actors like ZTE, Xiaomi, which altogether can represent 15% of the turnover of your market there, but there it's basically brand that does not exist outside of China. So it's something very important to notify in terms of business development, but I will go into that a bit later. And in terms of Android model for 2012 here, it's more for the guys that have to pass through the QC. You have a list here I wanted to share with you about the top Android models by 2012. You can compare with Western markets and check what the difference is there. It's very important because you QC, I mean, traditionally at Ubisoft, we have a globalized QC system, which is based in Pune or in Bucharest or in Paris. And when they give you a go to go live, normally you go live and you're fine. But in China, you have your build which is approved by the QC, but may not be approved by China Mobile itself. So its specificities really have to be well known and push through the QC global to make sure that your requirement is fitting the Chinese market. In terms of distribution of iOS version is also something very important. So on the left side you have iOS, on the right side you have Android. So, well, basically on iOS it's of course iOS 6 raised up very fast, especially since the jailbreak was open. I will explain to you about that. And on Android, you can see 2.3, 4, 4.1 really boom up recently. While almost 6 months, 1 year ago, everyone will have advised you to make a game 2.1 compatible. Today, you may probably go more safety for 2.3 compatible. So here it's more like easy to read this way. You don't see the progression, but you can see the revenue, the share for each version. So it's quite close to oversee, but yeah, it's quite close to oversee actually. And here I wanted to talk about that jailbroken rates for each iOS version, which normally in Western jailbreak is a bit taboo, while in China it's just not taboo. You have to work with it, you have to deal with it. If you don't deal with it, you will lose 30% of the cake. So we will talk about that a bit more deeper later, but the jailbreak, the free-to-play, is very a Chinese culture. So you have to deal with that. There's big partners. Everyone is aware about that over there. So in terms of distribution, because you have, of course, to adapt that. You cannot do exactly the same way that you're doing in Western market. So that's typically how you have to deal when you have a game on Western market. It's very resume, but you have iOS with Apple Store and you have Android with Google Play, and you may have some small store like Orange or Amazon you can deal with. In China, to make it simple, it more looks like that. So on iOS, you have the Apple Store, but you also have the Jailbreak market. That here you can see with Joshi 91 from NetDragon. You have many platforms like that, Wanduja or whatever. So you have to deal with this platform. They are 30% of the cake. They are doing traffic for you. The second part is Android. I just pick up some. There's more than 200 platforms as Google Play in China. I just took like the top 15. It's currently what Ubisoft is working with, because we don't have the sales force on the ground to reach and cover 200 guys, but 200 platforms. But basically, I think with these platforms, you can cover 85 to 90% of the Chinese market. Of course, Google Play doesn't exist in China, if you wasn't aware about that. So forget about it. Just to emphasize the fact that the Jailbreak market and this platform, that third-party platform, like you maybe never heard about, 91, 360, GFan, UC, of course, the platform QQ Games from Tencent, is very important. Is here you have the worldwide traffic data from Apple. They released, I don't remember, a couple of months ago, where you can see the number of billion raising up, billion of download application across the world. And if we compare that with one platform in China, which is 91, we are here. So 91, for example, in November 2012, reached 10 billion downloads. So it's very, very what we call big account that you have to consider, and maybe in Western, if you come from Western, you will never heard about them. So you have to surf with piracy. You know that piracy, it's a crime. It was a big campaign from Western. I think it was from France, I'm not sure. They were telling us it's not good to make piracy, blah, blah, blah. In China, actually, the stores are often open platforms. So all the store you have seen before, they propose apps that they're going to grab on many places, or Google or whatever, and it's totally automatically done. So that means your games will come back again on this platform. So the best way to prevent piracy, of course, if you send them a letter, they will remove it, but it will come back again and again. So the best way to prevent piracy is to work directly with them. You have no other choice. You have to know that also the previous queue are still available on this kind of market. So basically what's happened with Rayman Juggle Run, to give you a concrete example, released basically the version 1, which was 50 level, and after 2 months we released the version 2, which had 20 more level. But on this kind of market, you can still find your version 1. So if you don't work closely with them, it will quickly be a mess on the store. It will be very hard for you to manage your content. So of course, it's required daily resources for market regulation. It doesn't mean, of course, also it depends there's also something depending to that, if your game is free-to-play or freemium, free-to-play or premium, and if it has in-app purchase or not. Basically, Rayman was a premium, so it was maybe a bit different cases if it was a freemium, while you need traffic, so maybe you don't care, or the update can be done directly from the client itself, from the server, sorry. So it also depends to your strategy and to your content. So in terms of business model, what that means, that was actually a big fight for us with Paris, that wasn't aware about that and even didn't want it to share a bigger part of their cake. So we fight a lot for that, but I want to share with you this data, which came from Chukong. Chukong is a big publisher in China, very important. We also have an engine called Coco2D. As you can see, that's like an overview about your cake. you pay, you can do 20% on iOS, and after 70% on Android. That's basically that everyone knows that. But what is interesting to dig into, it's on the 70% or 80% on this scenario. You have 30% come from the Android carrier store, China Mobile, China Unicom, China Telecom, and 50% come from this third-party platform. So it's just the business model working with them is something you cannot avoid, you cannot afford. So the revenue share, how it works to make deal with them. It works this way. You have two different stuff. You have the online game and the offline game. The industry totally split both, and you have two different conditions. So first, for the online game, you have payment fees. It's 5 to 10% taken by the platform, and you have to integrate their billing SDK. It's 5 to 10% because on billing SDK, you have different choices, different options, and regarding the option, it's more or less expensive. Then you have the developers, take 50% of what left, and then the store take 50% of what left. So basically, you have to work with the store and do a revenue share business model with them. You can negotiate more or less regarding the game quality, regarding what we call the guanxi, your connection there in China, regarding many things. But I just give you a global picture. It's not what we have in all the contract, but just to give you like a base of negotiation if one day you are going through that. And then you have the offline part. The payment fees are 30%. So first time I saw that to Paris, it was a heart attack there. 30%, they are stalling us. Well, it's like that. You have the best conversion rate. It's China Mobile, which is taking that. China Mobile, China Telecom, China Unicom. And you just have that. It's very hard to negotiate, actually. And then the developers take 50 to 70% of what left. And the stores still 30 to 50%. So if you decide to don't work with the store, it doesn't matter. Your apps will be there, but it will be the mess. You will not control it, you will not have revenue, and you will not be pushed by them. But if you work with them and you give a part of the revenue share, you will be featured, and you will have visibility, and they will bring you traffic. So the store there are really like an acquisition tool for you. So at least, as you can see, for an offline, you get 30 to 50% of the gross revenue, which is far away from the classic 70-30 business model you may have in Western market. So that means you will need sales resources. You will need to make key account management in China more than what you can do in Western market. You will have to negotiate contract term with each platform. One by one, you negotiate the term. But what is funny is you have to negotiate the terms for each game as well. So the previous speaker have 20 games on his catalog. There's 15 platforms. I will let you make the account how many contracts you have to sign. That's very crazy, but it's like that. You have to make your sales administration as well, because each platform has its back office system, has its payment rules. So that's also taking a lot of time. You need resources for that. Of course, you have to make the market regulation. But basically, when you work with them, you don't have to care that much, because the platform itself will have much interest to promote the official apps, I mean the apps where they're winning money, where they're SDK, than the piracy apps. So that's like auto-regulation after when you start working with them. And of course, you have another point. You have the ad network management. I will not go through into details with this presentation, but you have exactly as the platform we just saw before, the advertising network in China is also different. Of course, you have the major actors that are trying to make business there, Tapjoy, Flurry, or whatever, or Google AdMob. But you have many local leaders which are specifically focused on the Chinese market. You will have to work with if you want to maximize your revenue on or your recruitment and network strategy. So after these presentations, I didn't put them here, and this is really an eye view, but you can come to me and I can share with you some of them, and I saw also them here. So you can meet them here also around. So in terms of localization, well, once again, as I explained at the beginning, that's high-level advice. Of course, you can do better, but it's also a question of how much you want to spend money for this Chinese version. So I give you like the light way to make the localization here in terms of production. But tomorrow, once again, I repeat for my colleague from PopCap what they did with PVZ there. If you have the resources to do it, it's the best option. So, of course, forget about premium game on Android. I mean, we are Ubisoft, so we used to sell retail and premium title. So we still have a lot of premium games coming up, even it's going to change progressively. So at minimum you can do, if you don't want to remake all your monetization, is you pass it, try and activate. So you just had a billing point in the right place to convert your user, and that's something can work quite well. There's platform very good on offline game, like Tencent, for example, that are making a lot of money just by putting a converting point and moving the game and try and activate. It's what we did with Rayman, for example, with China Mobile. When you pass it, try to activate also, you have to adapt a bit your price. You cannot arrive with a game at $5 there in China, it's very expensive. So the best is to be between 4 to 6 RMB, which is half cents. To give you an idea of the psychological price, the best is 4 to 6 RMB. We strongly advise to use different SKUs than the Google Play's one for the Chinese version. That means on the Google Play you're going to release for the Western market, don't add Chinese into that, because it will be on the counterfeit market, on the piracy platform. So if you know you're going to enter in China with your Android apps, just make it a Chinese apps and avoid to have Chinese in your global SKU. Like that, naturally, people will go through the Chinese version. If it's an online game, server must be located in China. So it's very, very important to do that. If you're outside of the wall, sometimes you may have problem, latency issue. So you really have to be inside. There's many solutions, partners, IDC provider there, technical solution, but you have to be in China. I just use that to raise up one point important, is today Apple servers are not in China. So what's happened? It's more long to download an apps through the Apple Store than through 91 Store, for example, which is actually for the user experience. If you have a big apps to download, it even better don't go through the Apple Store. So it's very, very important to be inside the Chinese network. And of course, the game must be localized. It may be stupid, but at Ubisoft, sometimes we didn't do that. So I just wanted to share with you what I'm sharing with each quarter. So you have to be localized in simplified Chinese. Or sometimes they say, yeah, it's localized, but it's traditional Chinese. So you have to pay attention with that. And of course, also, it may be stupid, but you need an Android version. Don't arrive only with iOS version game and think you will make a lot of money. We see before, you will just reach 20 to 30% of the pie. And then make sure your QC has the right devices to test it. I re-explained the case of Rayman Jagger Run, approved by our international QC, disapproved by China Mobile. So basically, when you don't have China Mobile approval, you don't have the billing SDK, you cannot sell your game. I wrote Android 2.1, but maybe today I will say Android 2.3 is okay, is acceptable. But you still have some platform like Tencent, for example, which is a very biggest one, very pushing for 2.1 and pushing for small apps less than 10 mega. What I will say, it's game client size between 30 to 50 mega is okay. It's better. Because in China, the 3G have limitations. You buy a package of data per month, so people cannot download that much. So it's something will very impact your conversion rate, the size of your apps. But I think it's very close to Western market. If you can add a wink of Chinese culture, it's better. So there's different way to do it. There's huge way you had a background on the Great Wall and you change all your arts and this kind of stuff. It works, but it's a lot of time. You also have some small tweak to make it through the icon. You can add Chinese version in China, or you can add a Chinese close to you hero on the icon. You mean it can go through the marketing element as well, through the marketing assets and metadata, if you don't have that much time and resources to make the game. And think also that all your sharing social function, it's not going through Facebook in China, it's going to Weibo, to Shenzhen, to Caixin. So if you arrive with your login with Facebook, well, basically it doesn't work. So it's also, this SDK is important to integrate. So in terms of, I want just to share with you another options. It's what we're also doing at Ubisoft. So we decided to share a bit the risk, to split the risk. So some game we self-publish ourselves, so we are going through all the problematic you have seen before. But for some games, we are going through licensing partner. So it could be also for you guys an option to penetrate the market quite easily. Don't spend that much money because they will do it for you. But of course, you will have to share a part of the revenue share with them. So I just list a few of them. Actually, there's quite a lot of more. There's more than, we're in contact with 15 or 20 there. So you have Allpound, Yodoi, I think is here also. UC Web, Chukong, iDreamSky. UC Web and 91 are platforms that are also publisher. A bit like Tencent is doing. So you have many options over there. So for you, sometime, if you don't have time, you don't have resources, and you agree to lose 30 to 70% of your revenue share, you can go here. Okay, that's it for me. I think I cover a bit the Ubisoft strategy, what we try to do over there, and give you some inputs about how to tackle the Chinese market. If you have any question, please feel free to shoot.
Questions from the audience for Aurelien? Put your hand up high if you have a question. There we go.
Yeah, hi. I have a couple of questions. Number one is carrier billing is going to dominate China? And is it easy for for foreign independent developers to work with these carriers?
Sorry, may you repeat that? I didn't go.
Is carrier billing is going to dominate China?
Yeah, carrier billing, yeah. It depends of offline or online.
Are they going to dominate China in the future?
Yeah? So what do you mean?
I mean, is it going to be the primary form of billing or stores in China?
The SMS?
I mean, in general, for mobile.
For mobile, if you're offline, it's going to be SMS. So China Mobile, China Ucom, China Telecom, they will give you the billing SDK that you have to integrate. If you go online, each platform has its own online SDK. And after, on their SDK, they have different option of payment. Tenpay, Alipay, UnionPay, etc., etc.
Okay, second question is it easy for independent developers from outside China to work with these carriers?
I think it maybe, do you have team and do you speak Chinese?
Yes, we do.
I think then it's probably doable. I mean, from legally speaking, I don't know, also it depends where your company is registered. At least you need to have a business subsidiary in China to be able to make the application. And it's quite close to Apple. When you submit a build on their platform, they test it and they approve it and they give you the SDK. I don't know, actually. I think technically you can do it, but I'm not sure legally if your company is registered overseas, if China Mobile will accept that you directly upload the content on the platform.
Yeah, I have another question on Sina Weibo. How is their revenue sharing like? I mean, if you couple with say China Mobile, and then you put in your SDK for Sina Weibo. How does the revenue sharing goes?
China, Sina Weibo doesn't take. We just first on the mobile part. We are just starting recently, and you use when I'm talking about Sina Weibo, you use it as a social to share. You don't really use it as a recruitment platform as the App Store on Facebook, for example. We are not yet at this level. But there's something maybe I could tell you is going to be very important. I think we're going to totally change the industry and the platform in China. Is a recent announcement that Tencent did during the GMIC last week in Beijing. That they explained us that all the how you call that? All the platform like Weixin, WeChat, QQ will integrate their own app store globalized. So I think that will change a lot the industry and will be a big new partners that you didn't see here today. I think they can reach 350 million users on mobile as soon as they plug on and they start working on that. So today, Sina Weibo on that part is very far from what Facebook is doing on mobile. So they don't take revenue share, except if you work with them as a platform. So they are on the same revenue shares that you have seen before.
Thank you. My name is Ibrahim from Talking Data. We are one of the largest data service platform for mobile app and mobile game in China. My question is, I'd like to have your view on the cheating on the top ranking chart of App Store. As far as we know that it is still the most effective way to acquire users currently in China. Thank you.
What can you be more specific? You mean people buying traffic, this kind of stuff? Because there's many tweaks in China. I mean, yes, you're right. The numbers may not be sometimes accurate, but there's many tweaks. What are you talking about exactly?
I mean, people cheat to make some fake reviews and something like that to be on the top position of the iOS App Store.
But on the iOS App Store, not really, because it's still Apple controlling their store, and the policy is the same all around the world. So it's an editorial content choice. Of course, afterwards, when you go with this platform, I've just shown you, it's very simple the way they work. They give you exposure if your game is making good revenue and you have a good contract with them. So basically, if you go 91 store or 360 store, there's no really editorial choice. It's more about business negotiation. Then in China, what you have to care about is there's some big publisher, that's what I heard about, some big publisher that investing and spending a lot of money in their game to make it gross up on the grossing revenue. That means they spend millions in their game every month to raise up the grossing revenue and be able to make some IPO overseas. That's what I heard.
Thank you very